Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 321, episode 321 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as ever, by former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. How you feeling?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Always good when speaking with you. Just before we get into this week's podcast, I do want to say just thank you to everyone that has been listening, throughout the years. Sometimes we get some lovely comments and stuff like that, and it's, it really means a lot. We get the reviews on iTunes and all that, and a nice message the other day came in from long-time listener Luigi Pelosi. He was saying that, and he said it before, he said how wonderful Eddie is as an addition to the podcast. It's now pretty much full-time Joey and Eddie. And he said the other day that, he completely agreed with Eddie's take on Kenny Porter. And he went on to say that, keep up the great work with the podcast. It's still the best out there. Which, these words really mean a lot. I just want to say thank you to Luigi, myself, and Eddie. Appreciate kind words like that. I will never say that, I don't think I'd ever say that we're the best podcast, but I will say we have the best guests on. I think it's you can't really disagree with that. You can't really argue with that. If I may not be the best interviewer, we may not have the best flowing podcast or whatever, but we definitely get the best guests on. And, you're going to hear me say throughout this week's show many times, friend of the show, friend of the show, friend of the show, because all guys that boxed last weekend and guys boxing this weekend have all been on. And for a guy that, started this podcast in a bedroom with a laptop and a dodgy microphone, we're not doing too bad. We are, I think, the only podcast as well that's hosted by, myself and, of course, a former fighter, in Eddie, who got to that top level. I mean, we're so accessible. You can send questions in to ask Eddie anytime. This is a regular thing every single week. We're both here, the two of us, and we're very accessible. Like I say, send questions in, get our takes, get Eddie's take if you like. So I think we're doing okay. A guy that started this in a bedroom, doing it every week now with Eddie, a top level athlete. And we do get the best guests on, I have to say. But the podcast may not be the best. That's up to the listeners. But I think it's very hard to argue that we probably consistently get the best guests on. Unless you're talking about another podcast where they're paying guests and stuff like that. That's a different story. A Sky Sports podcast, something, some kind of podcast with a massive platform behind them, a massive engine behind them. That's not what this is. It's very much a one-man band when it comes to that kind of stuff. But anyways, I will move straight on with the review, and I apologize if I've bored anyone to death with that little rant. Let's dive straight into it here. Last Thursday in New York, over here, Cassius Chaney, friend of the show. There's the first time I dropped that one. Now 21-1. He lost his O on a split decision over 10 rounds against George Arias, who for me won the fight clearly, actually. George Arias now 17-0. Like I say, a split decision over 10 there. Also on the card, the son of the late Tommy Morrison, Trey Lippe Morrison. He was 18-0 with 17 KOs. He got knocked out himself in the first round. So, terrible stuff there for Tommy Morrison's son. He lost to Mike Balogun, who's now 18-0 himself. Also on the card, Jerry Forrest, 26-4 with 2 draws. A split draw over 10 rounds against friend of the show. There's a second one, Michael Hunter. He was on last week's show. I had him on. We did the interview less than 24 hours before his ring walk. He sounded awfully tired. It was almost midnight in the US. It was almost 5 a.m. in the UK at the time of the interview. I don't know what was up with Michael. I haven't spoke to Michael. I've reached out to him. He hasn't got back to me yet. I will speak to him. But something did not look right with him. He threw up as well, we've got to mention. He threw up in the ring in between the rounds, or just as one of the rounds were going to start. Something was wrong with him. He looked in bad shape. I don't want to say too much. I want to save it for when I speak to Mike. I think Mike appreciates my honesty. I'll be real with him. He was terrible. He was terrible. A lot of people saying he didn't deserve to even get the draw. Lou DiBella was going crazy. The guy that promoted the show and of course promoted and promotes, I should say, Jerry Forrest. But no, it wasn't the best of Michael Hunter. He had a good couple rounds at the start, and Jerry Forrest, who I've seen a few times, he usually fades towards the end. He actually got stronger towards the end, and Mike was fading very quickly in the fight. Yeah, no excuses. He wasn't good enough, and based on that, that kind of performance against a Dillian Whyte, against an Anthony Joshua, all these people I've been saying he would beat, I think he could even get stopped by them on that performance. I'm just being honest. I need to speak to Mike, that's for sure. Moving out now, though, to Germany. Over here we had Denis Radovan, 14-0, now 15-0 with a draw. He was able to knock out in round 8 Brian the Lion Rose, who's now 32-8 with a draw. Brian Rose, another friend of the show, former world title challenger. This one was for the IBF European middleweight title. So far, the 3 friends of the show that I've mentioned of none of them have won a fight yet, so hopefully that improves as we move on. On the undercard, Abbas Barao with a win as well, 11-1 now, a unanimous decision over 10 against Meriton Karasha, who's now 29-6 with 3 draws. Christina Hammer as well returned to the ring with a first round knockout against Daniele Bastieri, who's now 3-2, but Christina Hammer now 27-1, the one loss to Clarissa Shields. Yeah, I want to see her back in the mix. She's a good fighter, to be honest with you, but Clarissa was brilliant when she boxed her. Moving out now to Bilbao. Over here, Kerman Lejaraga, the Spaniard, now 34-2. As I thought, to be honest, he knocked out in round 9 Britain's very own Jack Flatley, now 17-2 with a draw. That one for the EBU European Super Welterweight title. Flatley down in the first round, the 8th round and the 9th round. Campbell Hatton on the undercard as well. He moved to 5-0 and he picked up his first knockout. Would you believe it? One fight he's had out of the 5 that wasn't on a major platform, a big undercard. He goes and fights in Spain. I don't even know if they televised it. Maybe it was on YouTube or something like that. I didn't watch it, I'll be honest with you. But he got a knockout when the pressure wasn't on, when he didn't have all those crazy Mancunians with blue Man City shirts screaming his father's name. He didn't have that pressure, and he delivered the knockout against a guy who had a record, or now has a record, of 10-25, and that is by far the most experienced guy he'd ever boxed. I mean, his previous opponents' records were 0-10, 0-4, 4-4 with a draw, and 2-4. This guy had 34 fights, so credit to Campbell Hatton, getting him out of there in round 2. He had him down twice in the first round. Good stuff for young Campbell Hatton. Moving out now to the York Hall, Bethnal Green, London. This one took place on Friday the 3rd of December. We had Tyson Fury sat ringside cheering on one of his many boxing cousins, this time Isaac Lowe, friend of the show. And he lost as well. It seems like we're cursing people. He's now 21-1 with 3 draws. Devastating loss. He was knocked out in round 7 to Luis Lopez, who's now 24-2. Lowe was down in the very first round from a left hook, and he was down in the second round, and he was knocked out by a body shot in the 7th. I did see the fight. I cannot remember if the stoppage was a good one or not, but yeah, he was down on the cards. He gave it his all, Isaac Lowe. It's a shame, because I've always said it before. He was a guy that was avoided, underappreciated for many, many years. He had to work a full-time job. He was a part-time boxer, and he pretty much trained all he could. He'd be in the van with the rest of the gang, going to work every day, I think paving driveways, stuff like that. Tough job. And then to go in the gym afterwards, and he's got a little family now as well. I think he's recently married, got a child. So a lot going on in Isaac's life. I'm not sure if he's a full-time pro now. He might be, but this was the step up that he needed, and no fault of his own that he hadn't had it prior to this, but his record was building up. He arguably beat Ryan Walsh, didn't get the decision that night. So yeah, it's been a slow burner for Isaac Lowe, and he's still young enough to turn it round. He is, but needs to go back and change some stuff there, because I thought he could beat this guy, and he lost, like I say, down 3 times. It seems like he just was not good enough to hang with that level, and that level is not world level just yet. So he needs some rebuilding there. I think, with the right kind of fights picked for him, he can go on another good run. I think he's definitely European level. I just think he needs the fights. Elsewhere on the card, friend of the show, former WBC flyweight world champion. He did win. He's now 17-1. A TKO in round 2 for Charlie Edwards against Jacob Barreto. Now 13-4. Barreto down from a left hook. Didn't get back up. Moving out now to the Fortitude Music Hall in Queensland, Australia. This one over here, friend of the show, Lucas Browne, former WBA heavyweight world champion, got in with a guy called Fega Opelu. Never heard of him. His record was 14-2 with a draw. He was the big favourite against Lucas Browne. He was winning the fight, but he got knocked out in round 7. It was for the vacant WBA Oceania heavyweight title, so I'd imagine Lucas Browne might even get himself a top 15 ranking there with the WBA. But yeah, Fega Opelu knocked out, so it seems like we're turning it round now. The curse has come undone. 2 wins for our friends of the shows. Moving out now to Cologne in Germany. Over here, I think he's 42 years of age now. Firat Arslan with a KO in round 4 against Alejandro Berrio, now 39-10. That one for the WBA International Cruiserweight title. Firat Arslan, that's his 50th win. He's 50-9 with 3 draws. Moving out now to the Copper Box Arena over here in London. Let's start with the undercard. A win for a guy on the undercard. I said it on last week's show. He has the best name in boxing. Sonny Liston Ali. Now 2-0. A points win over 4 there against Lee Hallett. Charles Frankham with a win now 4-0. A TKO in round 4 against Konstantin Radoy, who's 0-4. We had a guy called Karol Italma, now 5-0. A knockout in the first round against Tamas Lasker. It was a body shot in the first round. Tamas Lasker boxed Archie Sharp, got stopped by Archie Sharp, I think, in 3 rounds, and he boxed him, 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, he's put on 35 or 45 pounds, and he's now a light heavyweight. He went from being a super featherweight to a light heavyweight. What else did we have on the card? We had George Fox, the son of Don Charles, lose his O. He lost his O over 8 rounds to Kamil Sokolowski. Such a tough guy. We all said it. We all know about this guy now. He is a nightmare. He should have arguably beaten David Adelaide. He certainly beat George Fox there. No robbery on the cards. Very pleased for him, and who would want to fight this guy? I felt it was a really risky fight from the off. I said it on last week's show. Extremely risky fight. Couldn't get any odds on the fight, unfortunately, but Kamil Sokolowski with the win. What else do we have? Dennis Mccann, he looked brilliant, by the way. He really did. He did get cut, which was a shame. It was a head clash in the 6th round, but he won every round on points over 8 against Juan Gerardo. Now 15-5 with 3 draws. Dennis Mccann now 11-0. Sam Noakes with a win. He almost went the distance for the first time in his pro career, but no. He knocked out in round 9 Sean Cooper, who they said on the commentary had, I think, was it his wedding booked for or his honeymoon or something like that. He was going away with his partner, I think, to Ibiza the following day. He's going to be going there with a bit of a busted up face. Knocked out in the 9th round there for the vacant WBC International Silver Lightweight title. Down once in the 9th round, Cooper. Sam Noakes still 8-0 with 8 KOs. Hamza Shiraz with a questionable win. A knockout in round 9. He's now 14-0 against friend of the show, Bradley Ski. He was on last week's show, or the week before. The week before. He's now 29-4. Bradley Skeet. That one was for the WBO European Super Welterweight title. Now, it was crazy. So, first things first, Bradley Skeet was boxing a perfect fight, okay? He was certainly winning the fight. Then, we get to, which round was it? Round 8, I believe it was. If I remember correctly, I can't remember if he was down and it wasn't ruled, and then Hamza hit him when he was down. I think that's what happened. I think, yeah, that is what happened. Bradley Skeet goes down. Initially, I don't think they even called it a knockdown. Hamza Shiraz, I believe, hits him 3 times while he's clearly down, sends him to the canvas. The referee takes away a point from Hamza Shiraz when realistically he could have disqualified him. He should have disqualified him. Then Bradley Skeet gets given some time, but when he gets back up, he's still not recovered, and then he goes down, and you know, I don't know what the scoring would be there because he then goes down. So I'm guessing, what's that? A point took off either way. You know, a point taken off one guy, then he gets a knockdown. What's that? What's that, Eddie? Is that an 8-8 or a 9-9 or whatever? I'm getting confused myself now.
I think it would be I think it's a 9-9 if I'm not mistaken.
9-9, okay.
Something like that. Yeah, I think so. I think.
So yeah, he drops him. Then the you know, they go back to the corner. Then he comes out and gets knocked out in the 9th round. He goes down. You know.
You know what? You know what? I think because the guy who lost the round, I would think would lose a point. But even the guy who won the round would then lose a point. So it might be like 9-8, which is kind of a weird card, but I think that might have backed something like that.
Okay, well, anyways.
Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, anyways. Bradley Skeet comes out the next round, gets stopped. Yeah, and basically he's petitioning it now with the British Boxing Board of Control. They were they had a meeting this week. I'm not sure what the outcome's going to be, but a lot of people saying it should have been a disqualification. They're maybe going to review the outcome there. And the main event, friend of the show, Lyndon Arthur, now 19-1, but he was knocked out in round 4 of this rematch between himself and friend of the show, Anthony Yarde, now 22-2. He's avenged one of his defeats there. I'd like to see him try and avenge the other one against Sergei Kovalev. But anyway, that's another story. This one was for the WBO Intercontinental and Commonwealth Light-Heavyweight titles. Lyndon Arthur knocked out in round 4, a big right hand to finish proceedings. And I've got to say, I know you didn't watch the first fight, Eddie, but I'll give you a brief rundown of the first fight. Lyndon Arthur in the first fight hurt his right hand. He couldn't really throw the right hand, and he pretty much jabbed his way to a victory. And in the final round, Anthony Yarde really poured it all out because it was the last round, and he hurt Lyndon Arthur. But people were saying, why didn't he start earlier? Why didn't he try with all this aggression earlier on in the fight? He didn't think he needed to. He still felt he won the fight, but pretty much no one else apart from him and his corner felt he won. So for me, Lyndon Arthur was the rightful winner. Then in the second fight, Lyndon Arthur now has 2 good hands, and it almost was as if having 2 good hands, meaning he didn't have to be so defensive minded, actually was his undoing and led to him getting steamrolled really by Anthony Yarde in that second fight. Yeah, what did you see of it? Because I know you saw some of the highlights, I believe.
I actually watched, I think the entire fight, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, because I remember watching different parts. They're just thinking, watching the fight, and it was like after I think I was watching the highlights of Tank and Pitbull. I couldn't say his last name, Cruz. I'm sorry, but yeah, it was honestly from what you're saying about the first fight, him having one hand, and I can kind of attest to that with Tomas. If I was to fight him again, having 2, I'm already a defensive-minded fighter in a sense, so it would actually kind of work for me even better, and I would actually have a better punch output, but still be defensive. It looked like it hurt Lyndon Arthur, to be honest, from just the initial, just watching how he approached the fight in general. But then again, Anthony Yarde came out really, really on fire. Like, he came out, not bombing, but aggressive. Like, you could just see his demeanor was to just right the wrong right away. You know what I'm saying? And he actually looked good. He looked sharp. His hands looked pretty quick. Punch selection wasn't terrible. And he was aggressive. Like, he hurt him, I think, in the first round, too, if I'm not mistaken. Hurt him, landed some good shots and just stayed that way the entire fight, which is what he should have probably done in the first fight. But and I guess with Lyndon Arthur, I seen some good stuff from him too in that fight. I seen him actually throw a couple rock off right hands, some counter right hands over the top to caught Anthony Yarde pretty decent, but he just really couldn't sustain it. You know what I mean? I think he was a little, and I was just watching him. He left his head on the line a little bit too long, knowing how busy Anthony Yarde was being and as aggressive as he was being. He wasn't really defending the right way, I think. He went to the ropes a little bit too much, already fair, kind of tall, kind of leaning back, straight up, big target. It just wasn't good. It looked to me, from what I've seen, that I don't know if it was him, having two hands, but I think it was just his defense in general. It was just a little bit lacking, and he didn't have the offense to keep him off at this point too. I think honestly, Anthony Yarde was just determined. He was really determined. He was going to get the win, and he was going to be aggressive. And I don't think he was thinking about decision. I think he was thinking knockout.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't like too much, I'm being honest here, I like both guys, but I said it on last week's show. I bet they won't waste any time getting Anthony Yarde a title shot if he wins. And they didn't really have that same kind of urgency with Lyndon Arthur when he won the first fight. So yeah, following the win for Anthony Yarde, Lyndon Arthur has been released by Frank Warren. He was promoting both of them, of course, for the first fight and the second fight. Lyndon Arthur been released by Frank Warren. Apparently, this was an agreement that they had before the fight took place. It's not like he just dumped him off afterwards. Apparently, Lyndon Arthur said if he were to lose, then he would like to walk away from Frank Warren, and he has done that. It seems a bit of a weird agreement to have, but I'm not sure where Lyndon Arthur goes from here. I mean, he shouldn't be kicked too far down the pile because he did beat Anthony Yarde. I wouldn't mind seeing the third fight, of course, but yeah, I mean, he'd still be a good test for all the other guys domestically. I mean, it's probably the hottest division domestically, so there's many names for him. I just hope that the fights can happen. I'm not sure where he's going to end up now promotionally. As for Anthony Yarde, though, like I say, they've already lined him up with the winner of Callum Johnson and Joe Smith Jr. So he's right in place there. No surprise at all. Moving on now to, where should we go after this? Let's go to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. This one, of course, Saturday night. What do we have? On the undercard, we had a win for Filip Hrgovic, now 14-0, a TKO in round 3 against Emir Amatovic, who's now 10-1. Amatovic down twice in the second and once in the third round there for the IBF International Heavyweight title. Austin Amo Williams with a knockout, a second round knockout against Quatavius Cash. He's now 9-0 Williams, and Cash is 14-3. What else do we have? Jessica McCaskill with a TKO win in round 7 against Candy Wyatt, who's now 10-4. That was a defense there of Jessica's WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO and WBO welterweight world titles. She's still undisputed at 147. She's now 11-2. Montana Love with a win as well, a TKO in round 3 against Carlos Diaz. Carlos Diaz now 29-2. Montana Love now 17-0 with a draw. Impressive there on his Matchroom debut. Weird thing about him, I mean, it works for him. It's not something I'd want, but his girlfriend or his wife or whatever, his partner, she is with him right up until the dying moments of a fight. Like, she was with him, I think, like hugging him and playing with his hair and stuff right before his ring walk. And I was thinking, like, really? I mean, I wouldn't want that. He likes to have her very, very involved. Some fighters it wouldn't work for at all. I don't know if she was in the corner, but I had the feeling she's going to be in the corner. Like, I think she was right there, like, stroking his hair and stuff while he was getting his hands wrapped. It was quite strange. But, if it works for him, then it works for him. His surname is Love. We can let him off there. Moving to the main event on that card. Devin Haney now 27-0, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Joseph Jojo Diaz. Oh, I've been forgetting to say friend of the show for everything. Let me rewind it. Friend of the show, Devin Haney and Jojo Diaz and Jessica McCaskill. So, little shout out to all of those. But yeah, Devin Haney with the win, like I say, for the WBC lightweight world title. A successful defense for him. He's still undefeated. Going to run through the rounds. Diaz, for me, in the first round, barely threw a punch. The side of his head was reddening as well that early on. It was a weird start. Haney was letting his hands go. He was more aggressive, really, than I expected, but nothing was coming back, so I guess he wasn't really doing anything too risky. Round 2, I gave to Haney again. Joseph felt he won it. He asked his corner at the end of the round, but no, for me, he was getting closer. He was letting his hands go with stiff jabs and hooks, but Haney, for me, was the much busier fighter. That's why I gave him the round. Round 3, again, I gave to Haney. Diaz was getting closer, but Haney was just busier again. Round 4, I gave to Diaz. Just about. I mean, he caught Haney with some nice backhand lefts from that southpaw stance, but at the end of the round, Haney did take over again, but I did just about give the round to Diaz. Round 5, I gave to Haney. I felt Haney did well at keeping the fight on the outside and not allowing Diaz to get on the inside and be rough and tough like he wanted to be. Haney was also able to get the full leverage on his shots from the outside as well. Diaz's work rate dropped as well. 4-1 I had it to Haney after 5. I gave Haney the 6th round as well, so 5-1. Going into the second half, I gave Diaz the 7th round. He just about won it. Really because it was based off of 2 big left hands that Diaz landed, but nothing much else happened for him. 5-2. Round 8 I gave to Haney. Round 9 was a really close round. The commentators said Diaz needed a big round and he got it, but I am not sure I gave the round to Diaz. He landed 2 or 3 big shots, but so did Haney, and again I felt Haney was busier. Diaz wasn't jabbing his way in either. He kept walking forward in straight lines. He was fighting like a one-punch knockout artist, and he was paying the price. His face was getting tagged again and again. So I had it 7-2, and then I gave the 10th round to Haney. I had it 8-2, and then I just decided to stop scoring it in the last 2 rounds. Joseph Diaz needed a knockout or a whole heap of knockdowns, and to be fair, he did rock Haney quite badly for a second, but Haney did well to recover quickly and start firing back. But all in all, a really impressive performance from Haney. A mature performance. When you get the measuring stick out and look at his most recent wins and stuff like that, the standout name has to be Jorge Linares. However, he didn't so much come through that fight unscathed. He didn't get the stoppage like many other guys did against Linares. And this, for me, even though Joseph Jojo Diaz is not as decorated as Jorge Linares, it is the best win of Haney's career, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Not as decorated, but just more impressive in the way he got the win. Is that fair to say, Eddie? I know you saw the fight as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think being that Jojo Diaz was a champion too, and more recent and more of a live guy, a live contender at this point for a title. I think no doubt about it. Haney was that was his best win, and I think he. I can agree with you. I think he looked good, but I think there's things that he definitely needs to improve upon. I think his defense, man. You know what I mean? It's. I know most people are like his defense. Like, yeah, his defense. I feel like he puts himself in position to be hit sometimes a little too much, trying to take chances, catching guys in the middle of combinations, which is good. And it's nice because he has good reflexes and all. He can get it off, but I think he gets hit at the wrong time a little bit too much. He takes chances that he really shouldn't take unnecessarily. And I do like his footwork and other things he does in creating space to land counter shots and things like that. But I still think a lot of times his head's on the line until a little too long. He doesn't move his head a ton. He moves his head a bit, but not enough. You know what I mean? Not in a way like if you look at Shakur Stevenson, like I like to look at him and how he fought, our guy Jamel, but he was defensively sound. He moved his head at the right time. I think like he looked for good open shots at the right time, even though he was aggressive. I still think he stayed defensively responsible. I think at times Devin is a little bit irresponsible defensively, and I think sometimes that's why he gets caught. Like he got caught with Linares, he got caught in this fight a couple of times. And thank God that this guy wasn't such a huge puncher, because if he was, might have got hurt, might have got put down, things like that would happen. You know what I mean? And no matter what, that doesn't just just because he's a good, talented top fighter. Of course, everybody gets caught and maybe gets knocked down. I mean, not everybody gets knocked down, but most do. So I mean, it's not a terrible thing at this point, but he's got to correct it, because if he's going to step in there with those other big four that we know, it's going to be a tough night if he gets caught with with those shots from, like, say, a Ryan Garcia or a Tank Davis or somebody like that, and even if Teofimo stuck around for a little longer, you know what I mean? So he can't be in line to get hit with those big shots from bigger punchers. You understand? So all in all, great performance. I thought he did a great job. I just think he needs to tighten up a little bit more on the defensive focus. Not saying he doesn't have the ability, but he just needs to focus on it a little bit more when he's in there with some of these guys.
And moving on to the final card, it took place at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. This one, of course, on Showtime pay-per-view. It was a good undercard. I don't know if I'd say it lived up to it expectation-wise. Like, I don't know. There was a few... pretty much all the fights went the distance, actually. No, in fact, I think the entire card, even the untelevised fights, went the distance. So, let me run through it. Friend of the show, Malik Warren, now 6-0, a unanimous decision over 6 rounds against Eric Manriquez, who's now 7-13 with a draw. Ava Knight, former world champion, now 20-2 with 5 draws, a unanimous decision over 6 rounds against Nancy Alba, who's now 19-16 with 2 draws. Credit to Ava Knight, who I think has recently had a baby and then has returned to boxing. So she, I think, had been messed around a few times for fight dates. She was really happy to have been fighting, and credit to her. She, I think, posted a really interesting post on Instagram. She'd been attacked by a lot of Twitter trolls and stuff like that. I don't think she wanted anyone to know that she was pregnant, because people were kind of saying, women shouldn't be fighting and women's boxing's so bad, and look, she's having a baby, that kind of stuff. And it really made her feel quite insecure, and she was brave for the post she put out. So credit to her for getting over that obstacle there and returning to the ring, doing what she does best and loves most. Friend of the show, Luis Arias, coming off the best win of his career against Jarrett Hurd last time out, looking to pick up win number 20, but he lost. He's now 19-3 with a draw, and he lost a split decision over 10 rounds to brother of Devon, Vaughan Alexander, now 16-6 with a draw. Arias deducted a point in round 5 for use of the shoulder. Shocking, to be honest with you. Arias coming off a great win. Vaughan Alexander coming off a first round, I think, knockout loss to Zach Parker, I want to say. So both guys, Arias coming off his best win, Vaughan Alexander coming off his worst loss. You just never know what's going to happen in that squared circle. Sergei Derevianchenko, now 13-4. I think that's a few losses on the bounce for him now. A majority decision loss to Carlos Adames, now 21-1. Derevianchenko, I think someone put out a post saying that he has never been the A-side for any of his fights, any of his big fights. He's never been a title holder, but I think he's still made $10 million. That's incredible. Good stuff for him, and that's his 17th fight right there. But he's had hard fights, don't get me wrong. He's been in there with Daniel Jacobs, been in there with Jamal Charlo, been in there with Gennady Golovkin, and a couple of others, I think. But yeah, he got in there with Carlos Adames, and it was a loss. The other guys he's lost to are world champions. This guy hasn't yet reached that kind of level. So that says a lot about Adames, or does it say a lot about Derevianchenko? Maybe it's time for him to think about retirement early on, after a really, successful amateur career as well. Elsewhere on the card, Sebastian Fundora, the towering inferno, 6'6". He's now 18-0 with a draw. A unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Spain's Sergio Garcia, who some people felt won the fight. He's now 33-1. I always knew that fight was going to go the distance. I cashed in on that. I didn't think Fondor would be able to knock out Garcia. I think Garcia is very, very tough. Used his footwork a lot in there. The size discrepancy was incredible, seeing the two in the middle of the ring. It was like, what the hell? He just looked so freakish, Fondor, but very exciting fighter. And he took a lot of shots. He was bleeding. I think his nose might have been broken. But I really like the guy, and it's another, very solid, tough test that he's come through there. So he is certainly one to watch once again. I think he was like my number one prospect or something of the year last year. He was very active, had some great wins. And moving on to the main event, Javonte Tank Davis, friend of the show, now 26-0, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Isaac Cruz, now 22-2 with a draw. Again, some people felt Cruz won the fight. It was for the WBA Lightweight World title. Javonte Davis deciding to stay at lightweight and vacate his 130 world title, by the way, just I think a few hours after this fight. He had 2 belts in 2 weight classes infamously, but he's now 26-0. Like I say, he got the win. I think he won the fight. I wasn't scoring it round by round, but I think he won it quite clearly in the end. And he moves on once again. But like I say, another friend of the show, He talked about Lomachenko afterwards. He name-dropped a few guys. Kambosos was there ringside, just like he was there for the Haney fight as well. I got to say, Kambosos, I'm loving it, man. He beat Teofimo Lopez. He's been at Hank's... sorry, not Hank. He's been at Tank's fight, and he's been at Haney's fight. And he looks $1 million, man. He walks around in those suits and the glasses. I don't even think he needs glasses. He wears them for fashion statements, I think. And he looks amazing. He just looks $1 million. Coming off a brilliant win. He hasn't gone back to Australia, to go and see his young family or anything like that. He's just riding this crest of a wave. And he's just out there floating around in the States. He's like a James Bond, like an Australian James Bond. I'm loving it. I think he has now gone back to Australia finally. But whilst he was hanging around, he looked pretty cool, and his performance, was the cherry on the icing on the cake, beating Teofimo Lopez. But that brings the review part to a close. The final thing for me to do before we wrap up part 1 is to welcome our special guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning WBO Light-Heavyweight champion of the world. It is, of course, Mr. Joe Smith Jr. Joe, welcome back on the show, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So, Joe, we last spoke back in January. It was just before the scheduled February date with Vlasov. Obviously, the fight got pushed back to April in the end. Just briefly tell me about that night, Joe, what it meant to you to become champion, and also the fight itself. Obviously, Vlasov, very tough. It was a close and hard fight.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough, entertaining fight. It was very hard, but expected fight. He has a lot of experience. He's a great fighter, and just his particular style, with mine, was a little rough, but we pulled it off in the championship rounds. We came in tough, and we came home with the win.
Yeah, it was amazing to see you achieve that. Obviously, the main reason you're on now, obviously, is because your next fight, it's been announced January 15th in New York. Your last fight against Vlasov was in Oklahoma. This is a homecoming here. I'm guessing you're going to have a big crowd show out for you.
We'll see. It's still quite a ways from my hometown, but we should get a decent crowd to come, and if they can't make it there, they'll be home watching. But, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It'll be my first, title defense. And, I worked really hard to get here. I accomplished my goal to become a world champion, but now there's a new goal set in mind. So I got to get past Johnson and look good doing it. This way I could make the next goal come true.
And you're taking on Britain's Callum Johnson, you mentioned. Last time we spoke, I remember bringing Johnson's name up to you. You were very respectful of him. Do you still hold him in high regard approaching this fight with him?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's a tough, hungry guy. He's a big puncher. He's very aggressive. So, I'm doing what I need to do in camp. I'm pushing myself every day to make sure I have that conditioning and that strength to keep up with him, and I'm excited for the fight. And I plan to make a statement that night that I'm one of the best, and I want to move on from there and go after the other champions.
And Joe, I want to ask as well. I want to ask if you've seen either of Johnson's last two fights. I'm guessing you're probably going to watch him if you haven't already seen him. But have you seen his last two performances? People are saying that he doesn't seem like the same fighter he was, I don't know, a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few tapes of him. Still, I think he's a dangerous guy. He's a big puncher, and I believe I just got to be smart in there and pick him apart.
And everyone that I speak to about this fight, they're saying, a knockout is guaranteed. There's no way it goes the distance. Would you agree with that? Obviously, you're both huge punchers.
I mean, we're both huge punchers. So, but we're also two tough guys. So anything's possible. But I'm hoping to make a statement and get him out of there early.
Okay, and I don't know if you paid attention to it, but we had a big fight here in the UK between two light heavyweights on the weekend. Anthony Yarde avenging his loss to Lyndon Arthur. After the fight, Frank Warren said that Anthony Yarde would fight the winner of yourself and Johnson. Is that something that that's been spoke about at all, or is it too early to talk? Too early to kind of get in that conversation.
I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously, I guess that's something they're looking for. But as far as me, my decision is, I want to go after Beterbiev after this. I want, if he gets past his fight and looks great, I get past mine and look great, I would like to get a unification match. And
let's speak about that. Obviously, Beterbiev, I believe, is in action. Is it next weekend against Marcus Browne? How do you see that fight going, Joe? It's a tough fight, I think, that one for Beterbiev.
Yeah, I think their styles make for an entertaining fight because Marcus is a great boxer and he can punch, but I believe Beterbiev is just too aggressive for him and he'll break him down eventually. But we'll see what happens because if Marcus looks great in the first couple of rounds and he's comfortable, anything can happen in that fight.
So it sounds like you think Beterbiev's going to win. Do you want Browne to win, though, or do you not really care?
I don't really care. I'd prefer to be the one to beat Beterbiev.
Okay.
And I can see myself doing that in the future, but I got to get past Johnson. I'm taking it one fight at a time, but I have a goal set in mind, and that's to fight Beterbiev next, and then redeem myself against Bivol and have all the belts.
Yeah, Bivol as well fighting this weekend in Russia. I want to get your. I think you've kind of already given it to me. I was going to ask your prediction for your fight, January 15th. You said KO early. You sticking with that firmly? That's what I hope for, but I'm well prepared to do the 12 rounds, and I'm gonna look good doing it. I plan to win this fight and continue moving on as a champion and unifying this division. And we've got a rule on this podcast. Everyone I interview in the month of December every year, I like to ask them what's on your Christmas wish list in terms of your boxing career. Where can you be and where do you want to be in a realistic world this time next year?
This time next year? I'm preparing to fight Canelo as the unified champion. So.
I love it. That's a fantastic... Fantastic wish list. Yeah, go on. Sorry, what were you going to say? Go on.
Yeah, but it's a tough task ahead of me. I have to stay in the gym. I have a lot of work to do, but I would love to unify this division. That's the main goal for the year.
Yeah, we'd love to see you do that as well, Joe. Just before we wrap it up, if you've got any closing words for your supporters here in the UK, but also worldwide. But like I say, there are so many guys over here that are supporting you in your career and even supporting you against Callum Johnson as well.
Yeah, I mean, thank you all. I hope you all tune in on the fight. And you know, I'm going to put on a great show for everybody and make another statement that you know, just getting better and better with each and every fight I have, and I plan to take over the division.
We absolutely cannot wait for the fight. We will all be tuning in. Listen, Joe, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a good luck for January 15th.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it, and same to you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with the unfortunate fact that Tommy Fury has had to withdraw from his fight that was set to take place with Jake Paul December 18th. That's a huge, huge shame there. Everyone was looking forward to that fight. Let's all be honest. We did want to see what was going to happen, but Tommy Fury's pulled out the fight with a broken rib, and I think he's ill as well, like a viral infection, something like that. He's provided an MRI scan to back up his statement about the broken rib. It seems a real shame. And in steps Tyron Woodley for the rematch with Jake Paul on the same date. So we will see Jake Paul fight. Not that that was the main attraction for most boxing fans. It was seeing Tommy Fury fight. But, you know, we will see that rematch with Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. And Tommy Fury will be at home for that one there. In other news, it's going to be very brief here, but the Boxing Hall of Fame, the International Boxing Hall of Fame, have inducted a class of fighters. Do you know, Eddie, who's been inducted in this class of 2022?
Honestly, I have no clue, man.
All right,
I definitely want to hear.
Here are the names that have been inducted. Miguel Cotto.
Oh yeah, he's definitely deserving. You know, he's definitely. Yeah, he's a great fighter. He won multiple titles. He's fought other greats, beat other greats. Yeah, he should be in the hall.
Holly Holm.
I mean, for women's boxing, you know what I mean? I mean, honestly, I don't pay as much attention as maybe I should have, but she's done some very interesting things, you know, and then, you know, beating Ronda Rousey kept her name around. So, you know, it's a possibility. You know what I mean? Obviously, she's there.
Roy Jones Jr.
Absolutely. Roy Jones Jr. might be the best to ever put gloves on. A lot of people don't even, you know, acknowledge that possibility, but it's definitely the truth. The man is great.
And finally, James Lights Out Tony.
You already know what I'm gonna say. This one, he should have been. He's definitely in the hall. He's one of my He's my favorite fighter to watch. One of the best skilled fighters of all time. And that's barring no one. He really is. He is everything that but everything that you would hope for in a boxer. Like tough, take one to give one, which I don't necessarily like that part, but it adds to the entertainment factor. Also, his skill with catching and throwing punches, slipping, rolling, shoulder rolling. Everything you want, man, you can see with James Toney.
There we go. That is the end of the news segment. Moving on to the preview part of the show. Going to start here in Russia. We're going to start with this card at the RCC Boxing Academy. Over here we have Arsen Gulamirian, who's 26-0. He's defending his WBA Super World Cruiserweight title against Alexei Egorov, who's 11-0. We have now, this one takes place, it's going to be on Channel 5, by the way. Friday night, Channel 5. Isaac Chamberlain, 13-1 in a 10-rounder against the guy that Lawrence Okoli just beat, Dylan Prazovic, who's, I think, from Croatia, 15-1 with 12 KOs. He got knocked out, I think, in the third round by Okoli. This is all from memory. It's for the vacant IBF International Cruiserweight title. Isaac Chamberlain fighting him over 10 rounds. Both guys have got this, have got the one loss to the same man, Lawrence Okoli. It's taking place, by the way, at the National Sports Centre in Crystal Palace, London. That is like stone throw away from where I grew up. can Isaac Chamberlain stop the guy in quicker time than Okolie? Probably not, but he needs to win this. It's a must-win fight, like everyone really is at this stage of Chamberlain's career. I think he's been grossly inactive. I mean, he's had 14 fights. He's got to be 27, 28 now. He needs to get moving, man. Stephen McKenna, one half of the Irish brothers. He's 10-0 in a 10-rounder against Abdul Quartey, who's 19-5. Big puncher, this guy here. It's for the vacant IBF youth welterweight title. His brother Aaron McKenna, 13-0 in an 8-rounder against Carlos Gallego, who's 8-1. That one's for the vacant WBC youth middleweight world title. This Aaron McKenna, I think it's Aaron McKenna. They were mentioning how many people he sparred. Like, the list of people that he sparred is quite incredible. I wanna try and find that list a second here. Aaron McKenna, he sparred with Jaime Munguia, Amir Khan, Sergei Lipinets, Jose Ramirez, Virgil Ortiz, Ivan Baranchik, Josecito Lopez, Jose Zepeda, Alexander Besputin, Esquiva Falcao, Luis Arias, and Fazladin Gabe Nazarov. I mean, that's an incredible list of sparring there. Elsewhere on the card, by the way, getting back to it, Idris Virgo, the Love Island star, now 11-0 with a draw. He's in an 8-rounder against Adam Trenado, who's 6-2. Casey Benjamin, 14-1-1 in an 8-rounder against Winston Campos, who's 33-8-6. Mick Hennessy Jr., 8-1 with a draw in a 6-rounder. No opponent just yet for him. And the son of former heavyweight contender Scott Welch, Tommy Welch, 6-0 in a 6-rounder against Mladen Manev, who's 3-12. Moving out now to the Melbourne Pavilion in Victoria, Australia. Over here, random one, I'm not even sure why I'm mentioning it really. Former world champion Sam Solomon, 46-16 with a draw in a 6-rounder against 6-1 Jesse White. Moving now to the International Conference Hall in Aichi, Japan. We've got Kosi Tanaka, 15-1. I'm sure that's his first fight back after losing his O and his world title, I believe. He's in a 10-rounder against Sho Ishida, who's 29-2. Moving out now to Almaty in Kazakhstan. Over here we have Kamshibek Kunkaybayev, who is 3-0. Probably saying his name wrong. He's fighting for the vacant WBA Gold World Cruiserweight title against Stephen Ward, 13-1. Stephen Ward was supposed to take on that guy twice. They had the fight penned in on a Boxer show. The guy's name I've forgotten, but anyways, Stephen Ward gets this fight here in Kazakhstan. Also on the bill, Sultan Zorbak, 11-0 in a 10-rounder against Ryan Wheeler, 16-1-1. That one for the WBO European Super Featherweight title. Moving now to the KRK in Russia. Over here, I didn't even know this card was taking place, by the way, but it's quite a star-studded Russian card, really. We've got Shavkatzon Rakhimov, the guy who's 15-0 with a draw. Arguably beat Diaz. He gets in with the undefeated 16-0 Rilwan Oladosu, 16-0 over 10 rounds there. Also on the card, Dmitry Bivol defends his WBA World Super Light-Heavyweight title against Umar Salamov, 26-1. Should be a good one there. And the main event, Magomed Kurbanov, 22-0. Many people felt he lost last time out to Liam Smith, but he got the decision out there. He is now, like I say, 22-0, defending his WBO International Super Welterweight title against Patrick Teixeira, who's 31-2, former world champion. He lost his belt to, I can't remember who it was now. But anyway, whoever he lost his belt to, he's a former world champion. It's a good fight there for Kurbanov. Moving out now to the Coca-Cola Arena in Dubai. Archie Sharp was supposed to be on the card. He has been pulled off of it. I don't think I can say right now what the reason is behind him being pulled off of it. But anyway, the show goes ahead without him. On the undercard, we have John O'Carroll, 20-2 with a draw in an 8-rounder against Elio Mesquita, who's 25-1. We've got Donny Nietes, former, I think, 4-weight world champion, boxing here for the WBO International Super Flyweight title. Nietes, 43-1 with 5 draws in a 12-rounder against Norberto Jimenez, who's 39-5. And I mean 39-5, not 39. So yeah, 30 wins, 9 losses, 5 draws, clearing up any confusion. Sonny Edwards defending his IBF flyweight world title. Honestly, one of the best fighters in the country. Unbelievable fighter. Friend of the show. So is John O'Carroll, by the way. I will throw that out there. He is defending his IBF, like I say, over 12 rounds against Jason Mama, who I think is from the Philippines. They're both 16-0. He's undefeated, Jason Mama, of course. I believe that's a mandatory defence there. And I think it's the main event. John Real Casimero, 31-4, defending his WBO bantamweight world title against former world champion Paul Butler, 33-2. Friend of the show, Paul Butler. All the best to him. However, he has been treading water for a long time waiting for a big fight, and it seems like, this fight has come around, I think, at a bad time for him. I think he's burned out in his last couple of fights, and I hate to say it, but I think he might get stopped here, to be honest with you, by the Filipino. But all the best to him. I'd love to see him pull it off and be a world champion again. Really, really nice guy. I enjoyed speaking to Paul Butler when I interviewed him. I'm not even sure when it was now. Probably last year. Moving out now, again, I've been missing the friends of the show. I've been missing them. We mentioned Isaac Chamberlain. We mentioned Dimitri Bivol, friend of the show. Some people probably won't remember that. Sonny Edwards, friend of the show. Paul Butler, friend of the show. John O'Carroll, friend of the show. Moving out now to the Echo Arena, Liverpool. Over here, Conor Benn, 19-0, gets in with friend of the show and former world champion at 140, Chris Algieri, 25-3 there for Conor Benn's WBA Continental Welterweight title. It's another steady step up for Conor Benn. It's another guy who I suppose is a fair step up, actually, from the likes of Samuel Vargas and the other guy who he boxed, and I can't remember who it was. He went the distance with him in his last fight. God, I don't like to check things. I like to just rely on my memory, which sometimes is a downfall. But anyways, whatever. It's a step up because Chris Algieri was a legitimate world champion at one point. But, certainly his best days are behind him now. I mean, he hasn't been champion for, oh my gosh, how many years must it have been? But still a tough guy. Who's he been stopped by, Algieri? I know he got stopped by Errol Spence. Is that the only time he got stopped? Off the top of my head, I don't think he's been stopped other than that. I'm going to have to check it out, unfortunately. Yeah, got stopped by Errol Spence. Yeah, the only person to have stopped him, and it was obviously back in 2016. Went the distance and lost to Amir Khan. Went the distance with Manny Pacquiao, even though he was down 6 times. But his last meaningful win, I mean, he beat Mikel Lespierre, he beat Tommy Coyle, but these are much lower level guys, really, than world champion level. That win against Ruslan Provodnikov, I'll never forget that. It was unbelievable for Algieri. But yeah, he gets in with Conor Benn, who will be looking to try and stop him, and it will be a statement if he does it. Elsewhere on the card, we've got Robbie Davies Jr., friend of the show, 21-3 in a 10-rounder against Hank Lundy, 31-9-1, friend of the show as well. This one is for the vacant WBA Continental Super Lightweight title. Hank Lundy was supposed to be taking on Lewis Ritson a few months ago. Most people thought that would be a really tough fight for Ritson. Now he's getting in there with Robbie Davies, who lost to Ritson. You know what? This is a tough fight for Robbie Davies. I'm just putting it out there. Hank Lundy showed he's not done when he went the distance last time out with Jose Zepeda. He is not done at all. On the card as well, Joe Cordina, 13-0 in a 10-rounder against Mikko Kachatarian, who's also 13-0. We've got Kalmina Gyarko, 9-0 in a 10-rounder against 14-0 Noe Larios Jr. there for the vacant WBA International Middleweight title. We've got Jordan Gill, 26-1 in an 8-rounder against Alan Castillo, who's 27-11. That's it there. Moving out now to the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, USA. Friend of the show, Nonito Donaire. Absolute. We talk about, Hall of Famers. This guy is a future Hall of Famer, undoubtedly. 41-6 in a 12-rounder against Raymark Gabayo, 24-0. Both guys from the Philippines there for the WBC Bantamweight World title. I know Donaire's going to win that fight. Gabayo absolutely robbed Emmanuel Rodriguez. He shouldn't be undefeated, and he's found his way into this fight. I tell you what, if there's odds on a knockout here for Donaire, I will be taking them. I mean, the odds shouldn't even be close for that one. He's not that good, Gabayo. Elsewhere on the card, we've got a exciting prospect, Brandon Lee, 23-0. I think he's got about 21 KOs. He gets in with Juan Heraldez, who's 16-1 with a draw over 10 rounds there. We've got Quadratilo Abdukukarov, who is 18-0 in a 10-rounder against Cody Crowley. That's a great fight. Cody Crowley 19-0. Really, really good fight there. And we have Andrew Tabiti back in the ring. I think it's been a while since he's had a fight. 17-1 in a 10-rounder against Mitch Williams, who's 16-8-3. Custio Clayton as well on the undercard. Moving out now to the Madison Square Garden. Over here on the undercard, Nico Ali Walsh, 2-0 in a 4-rounder against 6-0 Reyes Sanchez. He seems like he's fighting guys with undefeated records or winning records every time, I think, Nico Ali Walsh. Elsewhere on the card, Keyshawn Davis, 6-rounder here. He's 3-0. He gets in with Jose Zaragoza, who is 8-3-1. Keyshawn Davis, obviously, he was in the Olympics earlier this year. He's back now as a pro. We've got Xander Zayas. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but he's 11-0 from Puerto Rico, or Puerto Rico as I like to say, in a 6-rounder against Alessio Mastronunzio, who's 9-1. Friend of the show, heavyweight Jared Anderson. I've got to say, Eddie, you've got to watch this now. Jared Anderson, you liked his last performance, 10-0 in an 8-rounder against Alexander Teslenko, who I believe is a Ukrainian fighter based in Canada, if that's the same guy. He's 17-1. And the main event, Vasyl Lomachenko, the wizard himself, 15-2 in a 12-rounder against friend of the show, former lightweight world champion Richard Commey, 30-3. Obviously, both guys have lost to Teofimo Lopez. Commey got iced by Lopez, I think, in 2 or 3 rounds. And Lomachenko, we know what happened with Lopez, was quite a close fight in the end. But I tell you what, as I've said it time and time again, Lomachenko's not getting any younger. There has been fights where it looks like the miles on the clock are very apparent. And then his last fight, when he boxed Nakatani, he looked probably the best he's looked, but that was against Nakatani. Let me just tell you as well, his chin has been, he's been down, hasn't he, since I think he's moved up to 135. Wasn't he down once or twice, Lomachenko? Richard Commey, arguably, well, I'm not sure about arguably the hardest puncher, but certainly one of the biggest punchers at the weight. Good fighter, and it's a good fight. It's a dangerous fight. Lomachenko's not going to get him out of there in 2 rounds like Teofimo did. It's a very risky fight here. No belt on the line. Moving out now to the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is also Saturday night. Over here, friend of the show, Jesse Hart, 27-3 in an 8-rounder against David Murray, who's 10-2-1. And that is about it, though, for the preview part of the show. We've gone through that as quick as possible. The final thing for me to do just before we wrap it up is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 321 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest this week, the reigning WBO Light-Heavyweight World Champion Joe Smith Jr. There has been one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Heavyweight Tony Yoka will be taking on Martin Bakole on January 15th at the Accor Arena in France. That's going to be a really good fight there. I cannot wait to see what happens there. Is Yoka going to be good enough to beat Bakole? Is Bakole actually as good as people or some people say? We shall see. But that is about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.